Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Hindenburg. It's about time. It's been a while. And this Azur Lane event gives me a nice excuse to take a look at it again. I've always enjoyed Hindenburg. It's been one of my favorite tier 10 cruisers in the game for a very, very long time. These guns are just incredible. The HE does decent damage, but importantly, it pens over 50 millimeters. So most battleships can't even shatter this HE. It's very consistent. And more importantly, when you get broadsides specifically, this is not very good AP into angled ships at all, but when they show broadside, this AP is monstrous. It's a very, very fun cruiser to play. This Azur Lane event, though, brings this ship as a special ship. It's a premium, but doesn't have the lower tier premium credit gain. That's the only difference there. You can move your commanders over as much as you would like, and it does have reduced costs to playing it, the servicing cost at the end of the battle. But it's $192 Canadian. Or in doubloons, it's 36,450 doubloons for what amounts to a skin. That is really it. In past events, like old Transformers events, perhaps, or other collaborations, we would have seen the standard tech tree ship just gain a special camo. Here, though, it is a unique premium ship. Well, special ship, because tier 10s don't have the full premium credit multiplier, but basically the same thing. And because of that, it is very expensive. If you're thinking about buying this thing, know that Hindenburg is a very solid tier 10 premium cruiser, but one that you can grind out for free. And while it'll take you a bit of time to get to tier 10, I don't think the grind is too bad in this video game. And with some premium time, you can get there quite quickly. Paying this much for a Hindenburg, to me, is too much, all right? But if you're going to do it, know that you have a ship with very good guns, but is certainly lacking in armor these days. The ship has quite a bit of healing, but the armor is really where Hindenburg gets let down. When it was released all of those years ago, 30 millimeters of armor was a big deal. This was one of the only ships in the game that could bounce 406mm guns. It was Hindenburg, and it was Zhao, and it was Atago deck armor. That was about it for cruisers that could bounce 406s. So back in the day, Hindenburg felt a bit like a battleship. That's where you get the Battleship Hindenburg memes coming from. That's a very long time ago. The game has changed a lot since then. Hindenburg needs to be played much more cautiously these days. So you're going to see me, well, even right up against the border here, being very cautious about where we position our ship, trying to use island cover to limit who can see us, who can shoot at us. The Kerr first, with its 406s or the 420s, won't be overmatching us, but the Yamato certainly will. Colombo with its sap, well, we all know what Colombo sap is like these days. It is very, very powerful, perhaps even scarier than the overmatch on this Yamato, for example. AP at range, actually pretty good damage. When people give you broadside, don't sleep on the Hindenburg AP. It's very good. We're up at 100k already. It's been just over 5 minutes. This is going to be one of my better games in Hindenburg. It took me a little bit to get this one, but it was well worth the wait. I'm playing a very greedy build here. Hindenburg can be built in several different ways, but fully focusing on the guns like I am in this one, or for the most part, is a really good way to play it if you're understanding map positioning. Hindenburg having 17.8 kilometers of range is a little bit lacking these days. So the spotter plane is going to be your best friend for these higher tier, more passive games. I suppose you could run the range upgrade in the 6 upgrade slot, but I really don't want to give up the DPM here on the Hindenburg. We've buffed it further here with Luchins. Again, being a premium or special version of Hindenburg. Really, again, the only difference between special and premium ships is that baked in credit multiplier. Tier 10s just don't have that, and that's why they're called special ships. It's a premium, though, for everything else. And that ability to move Luchins around without spending doubloons, without spending elite commander XP is really, really nice. But that's about it for an experienced player as far as why you would get Hindenburg, other than the cosmetics, which of course is a subjective thing. As for gameplay, as for what impacts your ability in battle, it really does just come down to the reduced cost to service the ship at the end and the easy ability to move Lucians back and forth. Lucians being the special German commander that gives you many buffs in battle, gives you small missions that you can complete. In this case, getting 140 hits, I believe, with our main guns gives us a nice reload buff just by getting those hits in-game. These special commanders are very, very powerful, and Lucian's is no exception here for the Hindenburg. That reload buff now giving us a 7.3 second reload. We're even taking a top-grade gunner, so anytime someone is within our detection range, the enemy team is within our detection range, we get a further 8% reload buff. Hindenburg is an excellent DPM cruiser. It does not on paper have the best DPM, but we got to talk about effective DPM here. This ship being able to pen 51 millimeters of armor allows it to gain a lot of extra damage over some other ships at its same tier that you may think have higher DPM. Even ships like a Des Moines with its 203s just does not have that level of pen. It pens 34 on a Des Moines. Even though it has much, much higher DPM, well, it doesn't have the pen to get through a lot of battleships being released these days. Just like that, we've already farmed over 200,000 damage into this game. It really does rack up quickly. That Witherer, though, certainly helping us out. The fire RNG was very kind to me in this game. But as we're getting towards the mid and late game, I'm going to start to look for opportunities to push enemy flanks. I'm going to try to find broadsides. I'm going to try to find points where the enemy team won't be expecting me, or at least will be forced to angle to someone else. In this case, it's going to be the Vincent forced to angle to our Colombo. Colombo is incredibly scary for any surface ship these days. And Vincent's probably going to try to perfectly bow into him since SAP is so devastating. And because of that, if we get his side, our AP is going to do way more damage than this high explosive will. Fires are nice, of course, but you really should be trying to swap over to the armor piercing on Hindenburg whenever you can. When they're angled slightly, there's something about these Hindenburg shells that have always been weak whenever enemy ships are slightly angled. It's not really to do with the pen angles, it's standard pen angles. It's just, I guess they're light or they shatter easily, something like that. Hindenburg has always had poor off-angle performance, but when they're broadside like this, the damage is really good. It's cruiser dispersion, not anything special like Zhao where it gets destroyer dispersion, so you're going to notice some of these salvos being a little bit wonky on the dispersion at times. But for the most part, we're getting really, really good damage, these salvos, into this Vincent. I should probably be aiming a little further back. That way we can hit his superstructure if we aim a little bit too high. He has HE, thankfully. Still does a lot of damage to us, honestly. But the HE means, well, we're not going to be taking that overmatch AP damage that Vincent has. There we go, finishing off the Vincent and getting another salvo into the hull. I'm always going to be taking a skill called Gun Feeder with the Hindenburg. For 1 point, it allows you to cut in half the swap time of your shells, or maybe it's 40% these days now that it's been changed. And the reason is you really do always want to choose the best ammo type in this ship. Broadside Colombo at 8 kilometers. Well, that is going to be 16,588 damage. Did you know Hindenburg could do that? That was 8 full pens, by the way. We could have got 12 full pens. There's our Kraken Unleashed, by the way. An incredible Hindenburg game. This ship is still awesome in 2025. It's not as universally awesome. You do need the right match, certainly. We get the E there. You can tell I was pretty excited about that. It took me a bit. All right, it took me a little bit longer than some of the other ships I've been playing recently, but it was well worth the wait. Hindenburg here in this match, a really, really short clip. It was just more battleship farming in this one. Still doing a great job, but Yamato shells finally come in towards us, and look at that damage. Took like a third of our HP off like that. We were angled to him. That is overmatch. Suddenly, the angle of our armor plating does not matter at all. That's the downside of playing a 30mm armored cruiser that when it was released was able to auto bounce a lot of the AP. You got to be careful. So playing island cover is a good idea. The ability to just open water any battleship you see really shouldn't be an expectation for a lot of cruiser play, I don't think. I know I try to get away with it as much as I can. But if we're being realistic here, it doesn't really make that much sense for a cruiser to be able to open water a battleship for free like we often try to. This Minnesota, though, well, he's got 406s, so we can do our best. The turret angles on Hindenburg, though, are 35 degrees forward and backwards, which does not quite allow us to auto-bounce standard AP, which we need a 30-degree firing angle. So we're a little bit vulnerable to 406 here, but not too bad. Hindenburg still has very, very good armor when using all of its guns. This ship, though, is a little bit sluggish to play. You're going to notice it accelerates very, very poorly, and your rudder shift is 12.1 seconds. Some of the more modern battleships or latest released battleships we're getting have the same or similar rudder shifts to this ship and accelerate a lot quicker. This ship was released in a time that was very, very different when it came to game design and ships coming into this game. The concealment is also not particularly good. You get 12.5-ish, 12.6 if you run a full conceal build. I'm greeting for some heavy HE in some of these games, but I would highly recommend you start with a full conceal build, which we'll look at towards the end of this video, the builds that is. But having that concealment is not all that great these days. Back in the day, battleships at your tier would often have a 14-kilometer plus detection range. These days, though, there are battleships that overmatch you everywhere with better detect than you at your best. So they will outspot you, and your armor is meaningless against it. That hurts. That means Hindenburg has to be played a little more passive. Hindenburg cannot be played as the roaming, pushing flanker early game at all anymore, where I used to try to play that playstyle and sometimes get away with it. You still can every once in a while, but you're taking big risks. So you notice me playing like this. Kited away to start with, using islands nearby to try and stay undetected, and always being aware of what we're showing our broadside to. In this case, it's a Pommern in the A cap, which is a little scary, but for the most part, his dispersion isn't very good, and I'm assuming he's busy with other things. But we do generally want to be pre-kited, spamming HE at the start. It's a little bit boring, I know, but it can deal a lot of damage, and if you can save a lot of HP to the late game, well then Hindenburg becomes an absolute joy when you get to use that armor piercing at mid and close range. Even the HE at closer ranges can do some really nice damage. Wisconsin Salvo, very scary, accurate battleship, but it's 406, so we don't actually take that much damage. Something else I want you to notice here is the distinct lack of fires we're getting. I know I'm hitting sections of the ship that are already on fire or their damage control immunity time is up. But if you're not getting good RNG with the fires, the damage is still fine. We're still going to get respectable damage here. But in that first game I showed you, we got to wither pretty quickly, all right? There's some RNG involved in getting some of these massive damage games. That was a 4.8k salvo out of the HE, and we're reloading every 7.2 seconds. That's still really good damage in on this Wisconsin. But when you're not getting all those fires, in this case, Wisconsin already had a fire. But when you're not getting that fire luck, you're going to notice a drop-off in your damage. Anytime you can't get those fires permanently burning on the battleships at high tier, it is going to massively reduce that number in the top right corner. That's not everything in this game, but if you're playing a Hindenburg, maybe some of the Hindenburg games you've seen online, whether it be Twitch streams or YouTube videos, we tend to emphasize Hindenburg's ability to farm damage, don't we? Myself included, in this very video. And I just want you to know that there are games like this that happen where you get over 200 hits and you just hardly get any fires on these battleships. I'm still a really huge fan of Hindenburg overall, even if it isn't nearly as powerful as it was back in the day when it was released with all the armor that it had for its tier. It's still got very, very good guns, and when you get those flanking positions, the AP is absolutely incredible. Something you should notice about this ship is that it has an immense amount of healing. This ship comes base with 4 heals. That is very, very rare when it comes to any sort of tier 10 cruiser. Most of them are at 3 or even 2 sometimes if they have a super heal. Having 4 base is really, really nice. This ship repairs 50% pen damage and 33% citadel repair. Relatively standard stuff. Bit of vertical dispersion issues there on that Takahashi, unfortunately. Dispersion can be a little bit wonky. It is cruiser dispersion, all right? It is cruiser dispersion. But if you've played Zhao before, Zhao has very similar DPM. You don't have the pen on your HE like Hindenburg does, but you get DD dispersion. So a little bit of trade-offs there. Although that was still like 8k and we permit a turret. And he was bow on. The AP is no joke. You should definitely swap to the AP if you're only HE spamming out of Hindenburg. It's an excellent ship. Is it worth $200? That's Canadian. No, I don't think any ship is worth that. And you know, just sitting here in port thinking about what I want to say here for this conclusion, this is a kind of interesting camo with the pulsing effect there. Too bad that it's not available as a regular camo for the regular Hindenburg for those of you that want it. At least I don't think it is. Maybe I should double check that before I start talking about it. The stats of the ship are the exact same. Looks like no, you only get that space one. Interesting. Too bad, man. I get that they want to sell these things to people, but for those of you that want this camo, but you already have regular Hindenburg, it's so disappointing, man. It'd be so sweet if they released this as a regular camo and as a ship for those of you that want to spend the extra to get the full ship. It's so expensive, man. It's just so cost prohibitive, this ship in this event. Fortunately, there was a sale on the Multiplier, whatever. I am bad with pronunciations. I apologize. There was that sale. I think it is done now, though, unfortunately. There was a decent pickup in this event. This one, though, is the most expensive. This is the build that I was running towards the end of the video. I didn't quite manage to get some good matches with the full lighthouse build where you go outnumbered instead of concealment, and you go no conceal here and you go rudder here. That really, really helps your maneuverability. You go from 12-second rudder down to 7.3. That's a pretty big difference, man. That's a very, very big difference. And if you were to do that, I think your concealment actually is further than your maximum gun range if you're running this build. Actually, you know what? Yeah, full AP. There you go. That's the full lighthouse build if you want it. 17.9 detect, 17.8 main battery range. I think John might try a build like this. I'm not good enough to make this work. I just ran into some games where I was spotted and then just getting shot at cross-mapped the entire time, and I never really got in range, unfortunately. Maybe I didn't get the right maps for it. If you're wanting a more standard build for this ship, I would highly, highly recommend doing this, all right? Something like this, very, very basic build here. This gets you a lot of healing. It gets you a lot of HP, nearly 60,000 HP. Really, really solid. The eye in the sky skill here, cutting down your spotter aircraft reload by 50%. This allows you to more comfortably run reload mod. At least that's what I find. Definitely run concealment here as well. This would be my recommendation here. And then you do have limited range, but fortunately, you have pretty similar uptime and cooldown time. Actually, better uptime than your cooldown time on your spotter aircraft. Although you may not have this upgrade here that is a little bit of coal, but if you don't have it, then it does pretty much match here. Pretty close. And that's really useful in those passive games, giving you close to 21, 22 kilometer range for a little bit, but still retaining reload mod. The extra DPM here is really, really nice on this ship. I really do enjoy it. The unfortunate side is you do lack a little bit of fire chance. 15% is not particularly high for 203s at this tier. And your shell velocity, while good initially, at long range really falls off. When you're using the spotter plane, when you're using range mod at those maximum ranges, you got to lead a long ways with this ship. It's manageable, certainly is manageable with this ship. You will have to get used to that since your armor is only 30 millimeters here. This is a very bulky ship, I would say. It's not large, but it's clumsy. It's very clumsy, and battleships have a pretty easy time overmatching through it these days. You got to be on your toes here about which fights you're taking, especially open water. And it does have a bit of turtleback. It's pretty steep slope, though, means that it won't be auto-bouncing battleship shells up and away like you would typically want turtleback to do. If we look at curve first for a second, you're going to see effective turtleback. Notice the angle here is quite a bit less steep, and because of that, that's why GK with an above water citadel rarely, if ever, takes citadels. Hindenburg definitely can still take citadels. It'll work though sometimes, and every once in a while you'll get away with going broadside when you think, oh, I'm dead, and then suddenly you don't die. For the most part though, you do get punished pretty hard when you go broadside. Hindenburg is a very, very good tier 10 cruiser. Its guns are still absolutely incredible. Its armor is not what it once was back in the day, and that's unfortunate for those of you that got the chance to play it all those years ago. But definitely Hindenburg is still a worthwhile tier 10 cruiser to get. I would recommend you grind out the regular tech tree line. It can be a little awkward, especially at tier 8. Hipper is tough to play in those up tiers. But once you get to Rune, you start to get a heal, you get more DPM, and Hindenburg, of course, at tier 10 does incredible work once you figure out how to play it and not die instantly to those long-range battleships. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about the Hindenburg. It's just too expensive to ever recommend. For me personally, recommend the AL version. Just way too much money. Nearly 200 Canadian is ridiculous. But the Tech Tree one is still very much worth grinding out in 2025. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.